Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Welcome everyone to the Colored Pencil Spring Dandelions drawing. Um, Thank you, Chrissy, for picking this program. This is the first time this has been done. It depends on the libraries and what they pick. And no one picked this except for Chrissy. So, it may be picked in the future because basically I create a lot of programs and sometimes librarians go back a few years and, so you may see this one again. But for tonight, this is a 9 by 12 piece of Strathmore toned tan paper. We're using it in portrait mode. And then we're going to be using 3 colored pencils, brown, like this is just a regular brown, black and white. And then you definitely need an eraser. And we are going to start doing a little bit of sketching with our pencil first. And especially because, oops, we've got one more person coming on. Especially because it's going to show up a little better on Zoom. If you feel that you could sketch in the brown, I would recommend using the brown colored pencil. If not the black, but definitely the brown. And welcome, Elizabeth. I'm just going to recopy these in the chat for you. There we go. Okay, so let's get started. I also want to recommend, in case you are not on speaker view, to make sure that you have your device on speaker view so you can see this up close. All right. So, yes, close up, please. And also, I'm going to do, that's always a great idea, close up so that you can take a picture for sure. The white doesn't come out as bright. It always comes out brighter when I print it and when I send it to the librarians electronically. Oops. You're welcome. Okay, so we are going to be doing this very light because we will obviously be going over it in the brown. Well, all the colors, but specifically the brown. Lots of brown in this. Okay, so we're going to get started at the bottom. And so basically we're going to start at the bottom left corner of our paper. And what we're going to be doing is, can be a little confusing if you try to do the background and drawing the plants. So we're just going to be drawing the plants first. So what that means is most of the background is black, sort of, shaded black and a bit of brown. So we're just going to be focusing on the leaves, the stems, and obviously the dandelions. So with that, let's get started here on the left. So we're going to start off with this leaf right here. So I'll just quickly kind of point out the leaves. There's a leaf here, here. So what I mean is all of these. There are some leaves in the background, obviously, and some that are hidden. But again, we're not going to focus on the background yet. All right, so starting off, this leaf is actually going to be bending. It starts off over here at the bottom, and it's going to bend and go towards the bottom left corner. I keep making it a little bit too close to the left there, so there we go. And remember, yours is going to be super light. The other thing is that we're trying to get the shape, but if you don't get the shape perfectly at first, you can do a much more general drawing, meaning, right now I'm trying to get the shape of the leaves. But if you wanted to do a more general drawing of the leaf, you would sort of create it as if it is, just a blade, like a blade of grass. And then you would go back and sort of make some of those kind of cuts in the leaves. So you see here how I'm going back and I'm just kind of re-adding a little bit more of the shape. Excuse my hair for getting in the way of the camera here. So that's our first leaf. And now we're going to go on to this one, this big one. And so it starts here at the bottom, starts to go up and lean towards our left. And here again, you know, I'm sort of making all of the details as I'm going up with the drawing. But if it's easier for you to just make it flat, that's fine. And then you can go back and create all of these curves. Whatever's easiest for you. For this one, I really created it as I was going along. So it may mean that you have to do some correcting, but that's okay. I feel like this is a rather basic drawing. It's just that it looks more involved because of the background color. And I meant to say hi, Jean, as well, and Elizabeth. It's great to see you both. Okay, so going onward to the right, I'm just going to thin out my blade a little bit here. I got a little bit crazy with the length of it or the width of it. All right, so now we're going to be drawing this dandelion that is not quite popped yet. And so we're going to start about right here. So if you're looking at the blade next to it, we're going to start the shape of it right here. The actual flower bud will be up that way. But we're going to get that curve in, and that's going to curve all the way over a bit to the right. And then we're going to make it the other side of it. And then when you're done, you're going to come back up and create the little tendrils over here surrounding it. And then you make the bud. I leave off the top shape since it's white, but you get the idea. We're going to have a chance to lighten up these lines before we add our brown. Excuse me, I know that we're going to be adding brown, but it's nice to sort of remove a bit of the pencil before we do that. So just so you know. Okay, so next, we're now going to be adding this bud in the background here. So as you can see, it starts to sort of disappear around our dandelion. So actually, you know what? I'm going to have you guys draw the dandelion first. I think that'll be easier. Let's do that. So we're going to draw the first full dandelion here. So we want to make sure that we leave some space between the bud, the dandelion bud, and the dandelion. So that is going to start out here, and it's going to go straight down, and it's going to kind of have the bud in front of it. like so. And same thing, it's going to have some tendrils happening. And then you're going to get to practice your circle making. You're going to make a nice round circle. Move a little bit closer here. I'm actually going to make that a little bigger. Okay. And you're also going to add another 3/4 circle behind it, which is our other dandelion. I've gotten very close to the edge of my paper here. Okay. Now, the other thing you want to do is make sure you draw a bit of the stalk inside of the dandelion. And then on top, you're going to draw a shape like this for now. And you'll do the same in the one on the right, but it's sort of hidden, so it's just going to be sort of a shape like that. And I'll let everyone catch up. Okay. So now we're actually going to draw the stem to this one. And that stem starts over here and it's going to move down to the left. So it's going to move down and it's going to go all the way down back here, kind of hiding behind some others. Now, if you have found that maybe yours doesn't look exactly like mine, maybe it's in a different place, it's okay. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. But if you want it to, then you would just have to start to adjust where you've drawn other things. But I'm letting you know it's okay if it isn't exactly in the same exact place where my stems are. I promise you won't be judged or graded. Okay, so continuing on, we're now going to come back over here and we're going to create the tall bud that's behind this one. So basically, we're going to first make it sticking up behind. So here is the stem part, and then we've got our bud, just kind of tulip shaped almost. And again, I like to leave the top part off because that's going to be white, but we do have some curved areas right underneath. I'm going to move this a little closer. I feel like it needs to be closer. There we go. Now, once you have that stem is going to curve around and go down. So I like to use sort of a single line first and then go back and make it double. And just kind of follow your lines as you're creating. Like, see, I followed this one, it would sort of end up here and then down to the bottom. And we're really starting to get a drawing now, a fuller drawing. Now we have to start filling in some of the other blades of grass. So we're going to move back over to the left side. Oh, sure, I can absolutely review the tiny leaves. So basically, underneath, so I think you're talking about these, Debbie. These are the tiny little, yes. So these are sort of the leaves that happen underneath buds and sort of like the remaining parts that are underneath a dandelion. And I'm not really sure what they're called, but basically they look like they kind of go right up against the top part. So like that. And there's usually about 4, 2 on each side. There's usually another one back here. So if you want to make like a really tiny one, if you want, you can make another one. I only created like 4 on each side. I did create one, an extra one for this one. Let me make these darker. So they curve, they're pointy, and sometimes they turn a little bit. And so, for instance, you will see that with these. So this line here is sort of the point where the leaf is kind of bunching up a little bit. And that's the line for it. So you can do something like that too. And then sometimes I've just kind of made a quick line to indicate that it's coming down. So you can make them both ways, and a combination would be good. Here's another one I created that sort of I felt like maybe it was a little bit broken and this part was kind of curving. So you can add that too. I kind of added that right here. So that's what those are. They're like right underneath the dandelion. And I wish I knew what they were called, but they're kind of surrounding the flower. I have seen them on other flowers too. I'm calling them leaves because I don't really know what they're called, but they look like tiny leaves to me. So I hope that helps. And also with the a little more of a close-up of what they look like. So we're going to come back over here and we're going to start drawing some more leaves. So I'm going to be pointing at the leaves that we're drawing because I know, as I mentioned before, it can get a little bit crazy with, you know, how I did the background, very loose, and it kind of blends in a little bit. So this next leaf, so here's the first leaf we drew, and I'm going to draw the middle part of this one just so that you know that it's the same one over here. And so we have this leaf that is behind here, and it's going to curve outward and very spiky. As it reaches toward the sky and then back down. And then we are going to draw the rest of it behind there. And so I'm pointing to that leaf that we just drew. And we're going to have another blade that is kind of hidden back here. And it's really sort of 2 lines, 3 lines really. So like this. So again, this is the blade back here. And then this is the background. So we've already drawn this blade. And then we have another one that is pointy. You can only see partial or part of it. I was going to say partially and part. I ended up with a weird word. Sorry about that. So here we go. It's going to start here. It's going to lean and move upward right in the middle of these two. I have to fix mine a little bit. I made it lean a little bit too much. And then back down. And all the way down to this part here. Okay. Moving right along here, we have another pointy leaf here. That's going to start up here. It's right underneath our dandelion. And then it moves down here. Here again, if you don't have room for it, that's quite all right. I actually made my space pretty thin in this one and did not fix it, so I'm just going to add it right in between. And I may move, I might move mine just a little bit here. Just slightly over. So see, I fixed mine. Thought I could kind of get away with doing it, but realized not exactly. So I'm going to make my circle a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. We also have another one happening here. And so this one is a little bit sort of jagged. That also goes downward. So basically we have some sort of blades of grass and also some more leaves that are happening. I'll let everybody get caught up on that. Now we have this one that is sort of the start of a bud. That is another one. And basically, you're going to start off with the stem. And again, kind of making it curve towards, the mess of leaves over here. And then you're going to be adding an oval on top. And again, some of those curved leaves underneath, those curved tiny leaves. I added 2. I'm going to add 1 more in the background there. And then we're finally going to be adding this big leaf. That's also going to start here at the bottom. So we've got this one and then this one, and the rest is the background. So let's start off with this one. So it's going to come out sort of from around this area, and it has a jagged edge that then starts to get a little more thicker as it goes upward. Remember, it gets very thin in the middle. And there is another blade of grass that is in front of it. That's the blade of grass. I'm just adding some light to it. So there's the blade of grass. And then we have 1 more here. That might be a little too much light. Then our final, which again on the right side is a bit spiky. And guess what? We have our drawing. And now, when you're ready, you're going to just lighten up your pencil, because we're now going to be going over this in brown. The other thing is you really want to lighten up your dandelions, because those are basically outlined in brown, but very much white. So what we're doing right now is we're just now lightening up our pencil in case it's too dark. Mine is too dark because I have to do that so that it shows. But now you're going to find that it's lighter. And we're going to switch to our brown colored pencil. So I'll give everybody a minute or so. The other thing I want to say is you do want to make sure that your pencils have a nice point to them. Once we start shading and coloring, obviously that point goes away, especially with the white, I find. Um, and you'll have to resharpen, but you want to start off with some nice pointy points. And we're going to start off with our brown. And so what we're going to be doing is when we start with the brown, we're also going to be making sure that our white is very close by as well, because for some of it, we're going to be adding in that white right away, at least for the time being, and then we'll probably go back and make it a bit brighter. But we want to make sure to add the whites so that we don't go over them in brown. Okay, so that being said, the first thing we're actually going to do is I do like to start with the dandelion heads. So we're going to very lightly outline those in brown. So outlining the surrounding part in brown. And you're going to do the same to the other kind of 3/4 circle. Now it should be, I'm going to move my camera a little closer here. So excuse my fumbling with it. Okay. And then we're going to go inside and we're also going to recopy the shape inside the dandelions. And you're going to make sure to create the inside of the dandelion where the actual stem is coming through. And then for now, we're actually going to also do that stem as well. Also including the smaller little leaves there. And when you're finished with that, we're going to pick up our white colored pencil. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to start to make the interior of the dandelion. So the dandelion or dandelions, they are very opaque. Let's see if I can kind of shine a light a little on here. So basically, we're going to go around and we're going to add white to around it. We're going to concentrate some white up here at the top. And then we're going to start making spikes, sort of spiky strokes around. And then we're also going to be making, it's kind of almost looks like stars. So basically, we're going to be making little crosses and then kind of doing a little scribble. I'll show you as we get to that part. So join me first for the first step. We're going to start going around the inside of the first one with white, going up against the edge, making a white sort of outline on the inside. I'm going really close so that you're able to see, because especially the white doesn't show up as much online. So here I am just kind of tracing around the inside. And then we're going to shade in the top part. And then you're going to very lightly shade in the entire thing. You're also making sure to go over the stem and the part in the middle of the dandelion. You can do the same on the other one for now. Although we are going to take the first one and really add the details first. But the second one, if you want to sort of just at least go around the inside using the white. So once we have that top part, we're now going to go on the right side and we're going to make some curved strokes around the right side, like so. And then we're going to start making, coming from the inside, going to the outside, little strokes as if the hairs are sticking up, because they are. And then you're also going to go on the inside and you're going to make some of that as well. So these are just straight lines going all around the outside sticking up, and then also you're going to start doing so on the inside. But then we're going to add some more colored detail. And so I'm going to flip mine over for a second to demonstrate the detail that we're going to do. So basically, and I'm going to do it with brown since the white doesn't show up very well. So this is on the inside of the dandelion. So again, I'm just doing it in brown to show you. So we're going to be making almost like little stars and kind of little scratches. So let's do that now. And then I'm going to make some stars. It's much more built up, sort of on the left side of the dandelion. The other thing is you also then want to go on top of this part as well, adding just a little bit of shading. But we're also going to shade the bottom of it. And you're going to do the same thing to the other one. So remember, starting off, creating like little white hairs sticking out, especially on the outside. My white gets really used up quickly. I'm going to sharpen it for the second one here. Also going to add some shading at the top, the dandelion. And again, making the stars and scribbles. But for the most part, you want to make sure that it's opaque so that your brown or tan paper is showing through. And when you're finished, you're going to take your brown or pick up your brown colored pencil. Because we're going to shade a bit on the inside of the dandelion on the left side at the bottom here. And on the left side on the other one. Now, once you do that, you're going to make little hairs using your brown, just a few, because then we'll go back in with some black. So just like you did with the white, you're going to do that with the brown. And then we're actually going to start shading the actual stem. We're going to finish the 2 dandelions before we start the other ones. So let me just move my camera again. And now we're going to shade on the underside of each of the small leaves here. And then we're going to come up to the stem here, and we're going to shade a little bit of brown at the top. And then we're going to outline the rest of it in brown. So the bright white stars, I'm taking the white colored pencil and I'm in place. I'm kind of scribbling and going over it sort of darkly. You want to make sure not to puncture your paper, but that's how I'm doing the white stars with colored pencil. You're welcome. Of course. So now we're going to outline in brown the stem. And then we're going to shade a little bit of brown on the stem on the inside. And then on the left side, going down the stem, we're going to shade brown and a little bit at the top of the stem. But mainly, we're doing that shading on the left side. And then we're going to hop on over to the other one, the other dandelion. That one's done for now. We will go back and add white to that. But the next dandelion here, we're going to, again, go over the stem in brown. And for now, we're going to leave that one. Because the background is going to be brown rather than the stem on that. And so now that we have started with the dandelions, we're now going to flip over and go to the left side and really start to outline these leaves. We'll start adding a few things afterward in the background to indicate that um, there are some more leaves in the background, but we have the main things here. And so now we're going to go to the original leaf we created. And again, we're going to be outlining it in brown. We're also going to add the stripe in the middle using the brown. We're going to outline the next one here. In brown. And we're going to do some shading on this one. So we're going to outline it. And then we're going to start shading on the left side, starting at the top. And then we're going to shade kind of the whole thing going down, but very kind of sloppily so that there are some spaces that are left open with the background, with the paper background. So that's our first one here. And then we're going to go to this next one here and outline it. Remember, there's a small stripe here. We're going to leave that alone for now and outline the next leaf here. We're going to make a light stripe using brown, going down it in the middle. And then you're going to grab your white colored pencil. Remember, there's going to be some leaves that, I'm going to ask you to do both too, outline in brown, add a little brown, but then also pick up your, re-pick up your white colored pencil to have it nearby. So this is one of those cases where we're going to do that because we now want to go to the left of the stripe and color white all the way down. And then we're going to go to the right of the stripe and do the same. And already you can see that that's kind of giving it, that multicolored look just by adding that. And now we're going to go back in and we're going to shade. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to shade a little bit darker here at the top using brown. But then the rest of the leaf going down, we're just going to kind of do an even kind of coloring and get a little lighter. About right here. And then we're going to get a little darker. Our leaves usually get a little darker going down toward the bottom. So that's just the one side of the leaf. The other side is similar, where again, we start off just a little bit darker. And I'm using the side of my pencil. And then we get a little bit lighter. And we get really light as we go downward until we get to the same spot that we went a little darker on the other side of the leaf, like so. We're going to continue this pattern with the other leaves. But we're going to keep the brown now in our hand, and we're going to now outline this dandelion bud, well, the actual stem. So we're going over that in brown all the way down to the bottom. We're going to outline the little leaves. And finally the bud. But remember, we want to leave the top part of the bud available so that we can add the white. And then when you're ready, you're going to go in the bud and you're going to make short, quick strokes on the left side. And then a 1 on the right. So you're leaving the middle part, the white of the paper. And you can take your white then and fill that in the top part in with white. And then we're going to shade on the left side of each of the little leaves using the brown. And at the top of the stem, and then a little bit going on the left until we get down to the bottom. And we fill in, oops, I just realized I moved the camera and didn't move it back so you could see. And then we fill in a bit of the bottom part here. This is with the brown, and then we're going to switch back to the white. So our white, we're going to add to the other parts of the little leaves. And then we're also going to add to the rest of the stem all the way down the white. You may have to go over it twice. Now we're going to go back later and add the black, but we really want to do that balance between the white and the brown. So the next one we're going to do is this bud here. And same thing where you're going to kind of do strokes of brown on the left and on the right, and you're going to outline it, but you're going to leave this space alone because we're going to be doing white on that space. going to move my camera one more time so that we can really get above it. There we go. You're also going to outline the stem. And that's, remember, going to go all the way down. To the bottom here. You're going to very lightly add little brown leaves. And then you're going to add white. I feel like my camera is a little blurry, so I'm just going to adjust it right over it. There we go. So now you're going to add your white. And remember, the top part has kind of strokes of white on there as well, as do the small leaves on top. We're also going to shade the rest of the actual stem on the left side. So go all the way down and just do some brown shading, and then take your white on the other side, just like we've been doing with the other ones. And we are getting there. So we're going to continue, and we're going to outline this next brown leaf here. Go all the way down, but we're going to leave it alone. And we're going to start doing some outlining on this blade. So we're now going to focus on doing some quick outlines. The next one is here. And this one is a bit of a bud that's broken off. So we have our cylinder and a little kind of triangular part in there, and then our little leaves. And then we're also going to do this one here, where we're going to, make that using brown. We want to add a line in the middle like we did on the other ones using the brown. And this is one of those where we're going to be using the white with the brown again. And this one has two other blades of grass that are in front of it. So you're also, while you're down here, you're also going to add those as well. And now we're going to come back over here and we're going to add another blade, or we kind of started to here. And we're going to add another blade of grass back here. It's going to be pointy and have the line in the middle. It's kind of squished in between. I'm pointing at it. I'm going to make it a little darker so you can see. And then we're finally going to shade these leaves over here to the right. So we're going to shade this using our brown. And this time we're going to go on the right side, down the right side of the stem. And the same with the leaves on the right side or underside of the tiny leaves. Now we're going to put our brown down for a second. And as we switch to this leaf right here, and we're going to pick up our white. We're going to use white for the left side down the stripe and the right side as well, just like we did with the other one. Then we're going to color in this top part with white, and same on the left side here, also white. We're going to put our white down and pick up our brown. We're going to come here on the right side and we're going to do a quick shading, very light shading of the right side. And then we're going to get on the left side and we're going to add strokes, quick strokes like this. And we're going to also add them on the right side as well. So sort of some stylized leaves happening there. And now we're finally going to shade these two leaves here. And we're going to go again on the right side for this one. And we're going to leave the brown of the paper on the left side. And then we're also going to come to this one and we're going to again shade on the left side, kind of like this. Oops. So in the spiky parts and then a little bit right here, like so. And now we're going to come back over to the left side here, and we're going to start adding some more things with the brown and the white. And then finally, the last additions will be with the black. So we need both the brown and the white, just like we did before, because we're going to go into this leaf here, and we're going to add white first to the parts that you're seeing me add the white to. And then we're switching to our brown. Now the underside is a bit darker, but first we have to add a brown stripe in the middle. And then we're going to shade in this upper part, but we're going to shade from left to right. And it's going to be a bit darker under here because the shadow would be darker. Then you're going to go down and almost like a gradient, make it lighter and lighter. So making the pressure of your coloring very light. You're going to make the stripe a little darker in two spots now on this side. So right at the top here, just a little bit. See how that's darker? And a little bit on this side. And then on the outside, just a little bit. So 3 spots here, here, and here. And then you're going to do some very light shading at the tip of it and going towards the white. You can go a little bit on the white. And then on the other side here, right on top of the white, close to where we did the center brown. So just a little bit. And now we're going to shade with the brown in some of the background spots. So we're going to start here. And first we're going to shade at the bottom of our page using the brown, and we're going the opposite direction, and we're scribbling kind of a little bit over everything, just very lightly. And then that's going to take us to the background, and these are going to be quick strokes in the background. Going up and down here at the bottom. Sometimes a little bit lighter as we go in this spot here. We're going to come over here, fill in some more brown. And make the line in the middle a little darker, and then fill in the background a little more. Again, strokes of brown. We're also going to add a very light curved sort of line here that's going to make it look like that in the background there is another dandelion. And then we're finally going to be filling in the background over here around these leaves. So starting about here, you're going to fill in some brown going up against this first stem here, and you're going to follow it down, coloring in between the stems. And you're going to do the same on the right side, but you're going to go very light with your coloring. So again, this is with your brown. And we're doing light strokes, sometimes picking up our pencil, and then we do some scribbling right up against that bigger leaf here. And down at the bottom. Well, not the exact bottom, but bottom right corner, we're going to add some kind of brown strokes. And then we're finally going to pick up our black for our last marks. So our black is really just adding a bit of some darkness to everything. We're going to first start off in the background using the black. So we're going to start off in the bottom left corner here. And we're going to add some black on top of the brown, both above this leaf and below. In those spots that I just did. We're going to add some black in between the other stems. And so you want to make sure to pick out as best as you can where all your stems are. And you're going to add some smatterings of black in between. So where we mostly did the brown in the background, you can add a little bit light using the black. So we're doing that now all throughout the background. And as we head over to the big leaf here, we sort of outline it a little bit with black shading. We're also going to add it on the right side, bottom right corner. Not the exact corner, but kind of down below, where we add some up and down strokes, and then even some very playful strokes here, kind of like mimicking grass. And then we have two more spots where we're going to put, or three more spots where we're going to add the black, the final black. So that's going to be in the bud here. So we're going to add some black to the bottom, black strokes here at the bottom of the bud. I'm going to go really close so you can see that. So I do a little bit of an outlining at the bottom and then some black strokes. And then we're going to do the same at the top, going into the white a little bit. See how I kind of added the strokes on top? And you're going to do the same in this one. So we kind of outline the bottom and the top, but leave the middle. Okay. And then here in the middle of our dandelion, we're just going to add a few tiny little hairs of black. And we have to add a little bit of shading right underneath these little leaves here. So we're just adding a little bit of black on top of the brown underneath those leaves. And we're going to do that in one other spot. And that's going to be here. And then one more with the bud here. Go underneath the leaves with the black. And outline the stem a bit. And that's our colored pencil spring dandelions drawing. And I'm going to remove my spotlight and I'll stop the recording.